On the 40 acres on campus grounds, we gather around, discussing goals and dreams and life's adventures. The Texas Longhorns, they're the talk of the town. Podcast tales of the 40 acres, where we dive deep into the game day stories, from touchdowns to heartbreakers. We discuss it all, Texas Longhorns glory. Yeah, we gather around each Thursday night, talking sports, it's so alright. From football to basketball, baseball to softball, Tim Wayne and Harry, we cover it all. Sports talk is our passion, our delight. Thursday night at 8:30, we unite. We discuss the scores, the plays, the teams who might. Let's dive into the game, let's ignite.
12 conference champions.
Yo, what's up, everyone? We are back, the Texas Longhorn Fan Battle Podcast, a little bit later than normal because, of course, we were watching the first semifinal game. And, of course, we've got our guy, Steven from Fanatic Persepctive. Steven, how you doing, man?
What's up, fellas? What's up, Tim? What's up, Harish? How we doing?
Man, and always good time having you on the show. We're going to break this stuff down. The ultimate Quinn Ewers legacy game, Ohio State, the new 2012 or 2005 USC, Texas versus 2005 USC apparently. And we'll break it all down. But we are the Texas Longhorn Fan Battle Podcast for those of you guys that are tuning in through the Fanatic Persepctive stream. Hope you guys are doing well. We usually have this like normal show like stream that we're doing, but we're just getting on and talking ball tonight. I'll just, quickly pay some bills, Fan Battle Sports, give us a shout out and we'll jump right into it. So, actually, before I do that, I'm sorry, Tim. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Awesome. My bad. All right,
Tim,
Fan Battle Sports.
ball.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll, man. I've heard so much this week and seen a lot. I just have a lot of thoughts, so ready to roll. But real quick, fanbattlesports.com, where you can get the latest and greatest from the AFC South and the Texas Longhorns, including the Colts, Jaguars, Texans, and Titans. Fanbattlesports.com. If you would like to start your own show, hit us up through the website. Let us know what you'd like to start up and you get your help set up. Fanbattlesports.com. Of course, follow us on Twitter. Sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. Follow us on Twitter at LHFanBattle. We lots of cool engagement this week and over the past couple weeks. We just hit over 2,800 followers, so we appreciate it. Give us a follow there on the Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But give us a follow there and help us get to 100 subscribers. Just 100, guys. I think we're at 59 now, so we're kind of making some strides. But 100 followers is our goal. So follow us on YouTube. If you're here in the stream, whether you're on the Fanatic Persepctive stream or our stream, don't forget to always on both sides to like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. We are normally live every Thursday from 8:30 p.m. on Thursday nights. All right, gentlemen, let's get to it. I think before we start, though, Steven, just like briefly, because I'm sure you've talked about this quite a bit. Give us your, very high level thoughts around last week's game again, or I guess it's been almost a little over a week now against Arizona State. Just final thoughts.
Yeah. And real quick, I wanted to piggyback on the YouTube subscriber stuff. You guys, please go over. I know I'm streaming on my channel, and I appreciate y'all in the comments and always, but please go help these guys get over to their goal. I know what it meant for me to get my first 100. The first 200 and all that. It also makes a difference for the algorithm to help us grow as content creators. It adds some credibility. It helps people just see many times people aren't subscribed because they just don't see us and the algorithm doesn't pick us up. So anything y'all can do, especially this time of the year when it's now 3 teams left and the Texas is one of y'all's, help out a Texas own, right? So I really appreciate that and helping these guys out. That's why I want to cross stream them and have them have this access to our platform too to help them grow. But to answer your question regarding Arizona State, it's interesting because the overreaction that has occurred from a media standpoint about Texas being shaky and Ohio State being this juggernaut is almost the reverse of what we came into the Arizona State game with.
Mhm.
So to me, it's really understanding and embracing, are we going to learn from that? Right. Learning and not just we as Texas, but college football as an audience in terms of matchups matter. The game matters. In Arizona State, credit to them. They came in, they played ball, man. They matched up well in a lot of areas where we didn't think that they necessarily had an advantage or, we weren't as familiar or anything like that. It was turned into kind of some Fright Night Big 12 moments there, even though they're new to the Big 12. But the mental fortitude to get it done. When the season was on the line, Texas got it done. It survived and advanced for a reason. And that should help Texas in this next ball game if they're able to learn from their mistakes, because they had a lot of attention to detail errors in that game. One of the things that we talked about, especially here on Fanatic Perspective, was, guys, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. They don't have Jordan Tyson, one of the best receivers in the country. He's a third-team All-American. They don't have anybody else to throw the ball down the field to. They're going to have a quarterback running around. They have a running back that's crazy. Well, how else do you manufacture offense? They did everything. They had the running back throwing the ball, reverses, screens, the fake punts, all those type of things. So now the Ohio State game, assuming we're buttoned up, attention to details there. When the game gets close, who's more comfortable in their own skin? Guys, we saw that tonight in the Orange Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We were talking about it before when we came on. The game was tight. That's where everybody's like, it's 24-24, Penn State, Notre Dame. Drew Aller, he's not comfortable in his own skin. Riley Leonard's able to make plays. And so what are we learning from these moments? I think Texas learned a lot from Quinn Ewers, that 4th and 13, stayed calm, comfortable in his own skin, able to advance. So that makes me feel confident about tomorrow night in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. And I think, minus the from a forget the 4th and 13, right? Obviously that'll go down in Texas legend, right? Like that's a historical program moment. Quinn made some really good throws throughout that entire game. Now, there was a lull, again, another third quarter lull, which we've seen just way too often. But when Quinn makes these tightrope throws, the one that really sticks out to me is the one on 4th and 2 where Golden kind of goes out to the sideline, and it's the one where Sark is like really upset about the wrist. It was early, I think it was early in the game. If you
it was earlier in the game,
it was a 4th and 2, and it was
like 4th and 2, and he zips it to Golden. Golden like is able to make a great catch to bring, but when Quinn is making throws like that tells me his confidence is really high, and from a health perspective, he's got to feel pretty darn good. Because he's usually not making throws like that when he's not healthy. I think I can't remember like since Georgia, I can count on one hand like those types of throws that he's moved in. I think from a health perspective, I think this is the healthiest we've seen Quinn since maybe that injury that occurred before he was out.
He's looking good, man. And he's doesn't have the brace anymore.
Yep.
Playing with confidence. My thing with Quinn though is still the laissez-faire throws. He still did one that was a horrible interception in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And it's like if we can get that out the diet, we're really cooking with gas.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get rid of that, right? I mean, so there's still that element of where I'm like, man, I need you to sharpen up those type of things. But Marlon said it earlier in the chat, and this is where I'm at. People are talking about legacy game for Quinn, and Quinn's name is all over this game. He's a former Ohio State quarterback. He was there. He was a part of the big piece in their recruiting class. He's a lot of ways the Quinn Bowl, this Quinn Ewers legacy game, the whole bit, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Marlon called it earlier. This is about Sark to me. This is where I need to see
okay.
Sark getting his
I
bag.
like
I'm
that.
sorry. Like to
Yeah.
me, you're underdog. First of all, you're underdog. And the last time we saw Sark an underdog like this was the Bama game
Yeah.
in Tuscaloosa. And you
Yeah.
think about how aggressive Sark was with how on point he was with his script, his play design, and his play calling. I do think that there's been some areas I didn't like the way Sark called the Arizona State game. Period. I
Yeah,
thought
it
he
was
was
terrible.
slow to adjust. And it happens. I mean, I thought he was fine in the Clemson game. I like what he did in the Clemson game. The Arizona State game, I didn't like the game plan. I need Sark to be on program this game. To me, the matchup with him, this Ohio State defense that's playing really, really well.
Mhm.
But there's still some opportunities all over for Texas to make money with the personnel that Sark has and the
Mhm.
quarterback that he has and the offensive line that he has. I'm looking at Sark and I'm like, man, throw something out there to throw them off. Throw something out there to where it's like, oh, okay, I see the chess pieces are moving early and Sark is in his bag. That will help Quinn, right? We're putting everything on Quinn. But we're supposed to have a brainiac on the sideline, right? We're supposed to
Yeah.
have one of the best play callers. People talking about the NFL's calling for Sark. Like people talking about, oh, the Cowboys might want to take a look at Sark. And Sark, this isn't an addendum on Sark or anything like that. I'm just saying, for as good as he is and the way he's built our program and the position he's put us in, I want to see him have his best game as a coach in a big spot because he's our play caller. These other coaches we're dealing with aren't play callers. He is. So
Right.
it's not just him as a head coach, it's Sark the play caller that we're going to need as well.
What do you think, Tim?
Listen, I think the media is riding the coattails of Ohio State and their dominance against Tennessee, which is, again, another SEC team that had some really good success this year. But they were also a team that had some mishaps. We forget that. We tend to forget that Tennessee was a loss or a win away from not making the playoff at all. It's like, the fact that they were able to pull out some of these wins, throughout the year was pretty good because they did. At one point in time, they did look like one of the best 4 teams in the nation, and I would say at the end of the year, they kind of squeaked and backed into the college football playoff, if you ask me. Were they deserving of being there? Yes, I still think that they were deserving of being there. They just so happened to run into a pissed off Ohio State team that's lost to Michigan the last 4 years in a row. And we forget that. And the media forgets that. And when you have these big showings that Ohio State has had, then it tends to go their way. Now, I personally believe that, and I don't know if you've seen this, Steve, or not, but I've definitely seen an uptick in people thinking that this game is going to be a blowout tomorrow. And I got a lot of I think people also fail to realize like how much talent Texas has on both sides of the ball. I'm not understanding. The money is still on Texas to win the national championship, by the way. The money is still there. So Vegas
I think
knows
you sent it to me earlier. I think it's like 30, like almost 30% of the money is on Texas to win it, even though they have the third worst odds at this point.
Which is insane.
It's kind of crazy
for something to happen like that, And again, it was the margins were different at the beginning of the week. So now, I think what we all need to just kind of take a deep breath and kind of let the game happen, and then kind of see what happens after the first, second, even the first half at least, because Ohio State has been dog walking people,
early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
early. If Texas
Yeah.
can even withstand that, I think Texas is in a real good favor. And so I think we just need to relax. Hopefully, there's no, Texas has been somewhat of a good first half team. They've had their struggles, but let's take a look at the half first, and then
Yeah.
get to worrying after that.
I think there's a couple
The
of
game's
things,
gotta be
and
played.
I think back to your like money comment. This is not where the money. This is just where the odds are, right?
Yeah.
Ohio State is the favorite to win it. This doesn't mean that the money is going towards Ohio State.
Right.
I think this just means that Ohio State is the favorite, right? Money is basically like who's betting on who, regardless of the odds, right?
Right.
I think there's a couple other things, and Tim, you kind of touched on it, and then Steven, you kind of touched on it. This is an interesting game for me for Sark. I think one of the things we talked about last week is how do you take that next step before you're expected to take the next step, right? And really what I mean by that is there have been moments in Sark's tenure here where he could have been ahead of the curve and ahead of the expectation and exceeded the expectation, right?
You
I
can
think
say that about
that
Randy
first,
as well.
yeah. I say that about the first year where there were many games where he could have easily won and go maybe 8-4, 9-3, whatever. And you kind of second half of a lot of games fumble the bag there, right? Year two, you could have beaten Oklahoma and gotten to the Big 12 championship, or you could have gotten to the Big 12 championship. And then you let the TCU game slip away. OU beats you on the final play. Or sorry, that was last year. And then last year, you get over that hump, right? You're like, okay, this year we finally get it. When you're talking about progression, like the next step naturally is the national championship game, getting to the national title game. Listen, I'm not saying by any means that this season is not a success, but we're thinking about like, how do you get above expectation, right? And above expectation for us was get to the national title, right? Can Sark do that before? And can he do it with Quinn? And I think that's a good point from like a legacy perspective is Sark can start taking the next step before him being expected to do that or not understanding this.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, there's like the broader aspect and then kind of getting into the now, right? The now is their goal as a team is coming into 2024 with this group, Jahdae Barron coming back to school, the guys they got out the portal and bringing in Andrew Makuba in, Kelvin Banks in his last year, Quinn probably in his last year, was to win a championship with this group. So the goal for this group and the expectation, and Sark said that from the beginning, our goal is to win a national championship. That's not us putting pressure on him or anything. They're the only team that made the 14 playoff last year that's in the position again this year. So that is naturally the expectation when you return what we return, you added what we added to this roster in the now. Now, in terms of the program as a program builder and how he's graded contractually and what qualifies for giving him an extension, we want to keep you here. He is doing a fantastic job. This is absolutely back-to-back 13 win, 12 win, 13 wins.
Whatever.
Conference championship game appearances, people going for he's doing it all. So we have to separate those two. That's why I even separated him. If y'all listened earlier, Sark the play caller versus Sark the head coach. Sark the head coach is improved. He's become a program builder.
Right.
I'm just needing to see the old school Sark in terms of the matchup that we have tomorrow. Ohio State is a fantastic football team. There's a lot of Ohio State people out here that have trouble listening. They have very poor comprehension, and they act as though if you say anything negative about their team, that we're hating on you. No, we're calling it like we see it. And the way I see it is they are an amazing football team. They've been getting out to great starts in these playoffs. They have just as much talent, maybe a little bit more talent, maybe a couple guys more than we do. And I think that it's going to be a hell of a challenge tomorrow night to beat them. But they are beatable. This narrative
Yeah.
They're not, and you say it jokingly about the USC comment, 05 USC, because all of a sudden they become this juggernaut thing, but they have 2 losses on the season. This is a team that is they're the 8th seed for a reason. Okay. Yeah. They're not 05 USC went about 30, 40 games without losing. Okay. Yeah. Across multiple years. This Ohio State team got their shit pushed in by Michigan. Okay.
Right.
Less than
a month ago. Well, maybe a little bit over a month ago. Whatever.
All right.
Right?
Yeah. So that's on tape.
Yep.
And I know they made wholesale changes.
I don't understand why people forget about that. Like,
so here's the thing, right? There's a couple of things. When you go back and look at those 2 games, right? And then you compare it like we'll even just talk about the quick starts, the personnel, right? Both offenses are probably going to see the best defense they've seen all season, right? Now, Texas has seen Georgia. Ohio State is very Georgia-esque, and like they've got some defense, especially on the defensive line. But even the defensive line for Ohio State, right? They've got decent really good interior defensive linemen. I don't know if the power of their defensive line, their edge, is the same as Georgia's because they have a lot of speed out there. And I think that's the difference. Like Ohio State has a lot of power on the exterior. And I think Banks and Cam Williams can handle power, right? It was the speed of the Georgia defensive lineman that gave this offensive line fits, right? Mm-hmm. When I look at the matchup, Ohio State's offensive line, who's already banged up, missing their center, right? Missing their left tackle, who's also a number 1 pick. This is the fastest defensive line they're going to see all season.
Yeah.
And it might not even be close. And so
I don't think Notre Dame has the same speed that Texas has at the defensive line or at linebacker,
especially at the edge, right? And I think that matchup right there is going to be very intriguing. If you look at tonight's game, for example, right? Abdul Carter was able to wreak havoc in that first half, and he disrupted a lot of what Notre Dame wanted to do. Can Colin Simmons do that early in this game and put Ohio State and Ryan Howard in situations to be uncomfortable quickly, right? And make this, I don't want to say muck it up because it's not really doing that. It's just like making it uncomfortable, making it difficult, right?
Right.
And that's something that I think is probably up front is very, very interesting as what can this defensive line do to that offensive line at Ohio State? Because they can be had. And you also have an interior defensive line that can feed off of that and wreak some havoc on the interior as well.
Yeah, Abdul Carter had a good game against Ohio State when they played.
And he was playing hurt.
Earlier in the
Ohio State, yeah.
Yeah, Ohio State. When they played, go watch Abdul Carter's tape against Donovan Jackson.
So good.
When they played each other, and Donovan Jackson's really a guard, right? Now they've again, Ohio State. This is now well documented since the big change they made was in the run game, moving to counters, and they've been killing people with counter. I also look at this because Ohio State fans will tell you, well, Tennessee's defensive line is all world, and look what we did to them. And my counter to that is Tennessee, how were they going to know that y'all were going to switch the game plan to counter like that? Them being the first ones to play y'all had no clue.
Yeah.
They were prepared to play inside zone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they had no clue and they had no offensive support to buy them time to figure out what the hell Ohio State was doing because they came in there and they completely changed their offense from Michigan smartly because what Michigan, because Michigan has a great defensive line too. Yep. And what Michigan's defensive line taught us was that they can't block inside zone. They can't block it. So they were like, and so smartly, Chip Kelly and their staff was like, we're not going to run anymore. Everything's counter galore, right? We're just going to have everybody pulling and going crazy. And that's what they did it to Oregon beautifully. Okay. Yep. But Texas at least has the advantage of now seeing both what Ohio State did in the regular season, but also the adjustments that they've made, right? And if I'm Texas, I'm expecting them to come out and run and counter again because that's what those offensive linemen are able to do. This game is going to come down to everyone's going to do what they're you're not going to get outside your guard at this point. Because I hear a lot of people talking about the Texas defense. Oh, Jahdae Barron we should travel or play man or all this type of stuff. That's not what we do.
No.
Right.
That's not how we play defense.
No.
That would mean we would be scrapping everything we've made us good.
Not this year.
Right. What you need to do is do what you do and do it at a high level and be confident about it.
Right.
At this point. So
now what you can do and you're not going to stop Jeremiah Smith, right? But what you can do that Texas does very well is lay a couple hits on him.
I think you can stop Jeremiah Smith. I think it's very possible to stop Jeremiah Smith. If you run the type of coverages and you roll coverages and you make sure that you got people underneath and you got somebody over the top and you make sure that that guy doesn't get big plays down the field, cool. That is something that you can do. This is what people are failing to realize is that we're taking we're making this more difficult than it is. At this point in the year, all of the shit is out there. It's like it's out there.
You can't hide anything at this point.
At this point, there's you may be able to get a couple wrinkles. There's no time to sit up and install these grandiose schemes and stuff like that. You take a couple plays here. Yeah, you take a couple plays here or there. You maybe install some stuff like that you may have used earlier in the year that worked, but you didn't necessarily use after that. You install those packages. It's too late in the season to run a whole new thing. Getting your offensive guards to pull, that's fundamentally sound. This is fundamental football that they're playing now. No. Their gap scheme was way more complex than I think a lot of people fail to realize. It's like, being able, having your running back choose a hole and choose an option is way more difficult than getting behind two offensive guards that will clean your clock. That's simple.
Tim, what you're saying is so true too, because Ohio State, the only reason why they made that, they were able to make a wholesale change the way they did with their run scheme is because they didn't even have to go to the Big Ten championship game.
No.
Yeah,
they had way more time.
27 days. Like 27 days. Well, actually, a little bit more than that because they didn't have the big. They got over a month.
Yeah, if you think about it, they had that extra week. They dumped everything down. They said, "This is what we're gonna do."
Y'all just pulling. Y'all are guards anyway.
We're gonna take the hogs and we're gonna pull. And that's simple. That's basic. That's not. The players don't have to think at that point.
But now the players are more confident because they're flying.
Execute. That's literally all they're done. And so this is very, very again, this is not something complex. If you just play fundamental football, you make sure that you make your tackles, if you can bust up the offensive line, if you can put them on their butt early, put them on their butt. It makes things more simple. And also, we also got to admit this. We've seen Will Howard 3 times before. There are four. Oh my God, 4. There are kids on this team that have seen Will Howard multiple times. This is this is the most talented team he's had, but there are people that have seen him, and so to sit up there and just think that they're just going to come through and just bowl Texas over I think it's just odd.
Also, Will Howard didn't just change his jersey and become Peyton Manning. Like when you see a guy that many times, like he doesn't just change. Now, are the players around him better? Oh yeah,
significantly
absolutely.
better. Significantly
100%.
Better. $13 million.
Fundamentally, there's a reason why he's the 7th rated quarterback in this draft coming up, right? And a quarterback draft that's not very good to begin with. It's not very deep, and you're rated 7th. So, I think from that perspective, there's still a lot. I'm curious on what you guys think about this comment. If Texas defers to the second half, if they win the toss, first off, if Texas wins the toss, what do you guys think they should do?
They should defer. They should.
Yeah,
defer.
I've always been a defer guy. I think I have no problem deferring to. First of all, I always like having the ball in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Now that's going to lead us to have the third quarter conversation, which that we need to have. We need to have the third quarter conversation. But
that's
I
where I
know a
was
lot of so this question, AJ, are you asking this because you don't want Ohio State to jump us, or what's the nature of the question? Because to me, I do think about that, right? To me, Ohio State they're front runners. I truly, in my spirit,
100%.
believe that they are front runners. When they play, they are a different football team later in the game when the game is close. They're just different.
Mhm.
And Will Howard, and that's another thing. The pressure, it's not just you talk about stopping Jeremiah Smith. The key to stopping Jeremiah Smith, too, is stopping Will Howard.
Yeah.
He's the one delivering the football. And if you
Right.
just get have that pressure on him, which you can get because their offensive line isn't very good, but what's made them good is their marriage to their run game.
Mhm.
And all the stuff they're doing, and they're being so aggressive early that you can't keep up with them run or pass. But if you force them into situations where it is straight 3rd and 14, second and these plays where they have to throw the football,
Right.
and it's all Will Howard, and we're saying throw it from the pocket.
Yeah.
There's going to be some Drew Aller looking plays out there.
Mhm.
I
There will be.
promise you
Yeah,
that.
he's prone to that. Yep.
Yeah.
These balls where he's throwing, where he hit Emeka Akuba down the seam, that's because Chip Kelly and them got him into rhythm.
Mhm.
They got him out there. The first touchdown that Jeremiah Smith had, did y'all see that touchdown? It was a little dump off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he's
Yeah.
feeling good. It's like, oh, okay. If all I got to do is get the ball to my playmakers, and I'm
Yeah.
good, right?
And when he gets
And-
into that rhythm, he did have that really nice ball to was it Emeka?
yeah, the
Egbuka,
ball
where he
down the
threaded
seam
the needle
where he
down
That was
thread,
beautiful. Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
came later in the game.
Yeah.
When he was feeling good, he didn't
Right.
open the game throwing like that, right?
Yeah.
Like they got him into that, and he can throw when he's feeling confident.
Sure.
You don't want him to feel confident,
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Fair enough. What do you think, Tim?
I mean, I think Steve has put it in elegantly. I just okay. I don't know what else more we could go into detail with this. This is again, it's very plain, it's very simple. Like this, you can't. I would like to say this. With Texas getting the ball in the second half, especially if they're able to run the ball, you could ultimately put them away if you can stay away from penalties. If you can stay away from dumb penalties, false starts, holdings. You know what I would like to see Sark do gameplay wise? I want to see Sark stretch that defense out because he ain't been doing that. I haven't seen any screens. I want to see quick. I want to see Quinn get in a motion in a rhythm. I want to see those guys get out in space. I want to see these guys get bubble screens, and I don't want to see nothing that takes too long to develop. Quit doing that. Quit trying to be pretty. Get the ball out to your playmakers. Let them get open in the field. Make them miss tackles. Run the ball effectively. Stop giving the same look when you're running the ball, and let's do it. It's simple. This is all simple. We need to stop.
it does feel like we're gonna have to throw to set up the run. I saw somebody bring this up on Twitter today, and it's made me think about it a little bit more. To Tim's point, I did think Texas is gonna have to run some empty and have some empty.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
And really, really, really spread. And I don't. And the beauty with Texas is they have the personnel. Even if Jaden Blue's out there, a run empty with out of 12 or 11 or whatever. Gunnar Helm can spread out. Ron Davis, like it's just having that look of empty set, and then like you said, balls out quick. Whether it's bubble quick hitters to get in rhythm, but also to get that defense moving. And then with that same personnel, you can max up, you can go up tempo and then go into a pistol and run the ball. There's a lot of variations you can do, but showing those empty sets, Quinn's stats out of empty are actually pretty good.
I was just about to talk about that because Rod Babers put out a tweet earlier today.
It
Shout
was
out to Rod
yeah.
Babers.
Shout out Rod, man.
In empty formation in the last 5 games, Quinn is 86% completion percentage, which I don't know if you know, that's really damn good. 12 yards, basically 12 yards per attempt, 62% first down touchdown rate in empty, 60% third down conversion rate, and 30%. So 30% of their explosive plays come out of empty.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's very telling.
If you think about Texas leads the nation, I'm pretty sure by a long shot, in explosive plays this season. I think it's like 120, if I'm not mistaken, like 120, 121, something like that. 30% of them are out of empty. So you talk about 30% of 120, it's like what, 30? 30, something like that, 33, something like that.
Yeah. Another
Actually,
thing,
very off on that.
Another thing that to add on to what Rod is saying, I would like to see Quinn utilize his legs. Again, in all facets, in a situation, yes, I need you to use your legs. I need you to keep this defense as honest and on its heels as possible. Yeah. I don't need them getting comfortable. I don't need them bringing any safeties down. I don't need them trying to add more people in the box. This is where those screens come into play, getting those guys in open, spreading his defense out. And if you can possibly gas them. Like, run them out of the gym. Get them out of here. Get them on their heels. Gas that defensive line, especially if you get the ball in the third quarter and you got I don't care how big of a lead you got. If you can create a tempo and you can move up tempo and really have those guys on their heels, you can pull something off.
How do we solve the third quarter problem?
I was just about to lean into that. I think there's a couple of things you might have to do. I think starting an empty might be a great way. Get some screens, get some just easy ways to get Quinn in rhythm is probably the number one way to do it. You need to have your guys see positive yards, especially on that first drive, because if you look at like first down, just the last handful of games, just in the Arizona State game, first down was like, I think it was like a 2-yard loss or like no gain. I don't remember it being positive, right? I also think Sark needs to know and understand going into the half who the hot hand is, right? Is it the running game? Is it the passing game? Yes. And that's where you start, right?
It's such a good
Quinn Ewers was very good in that first half versus Arizona State. He threw the ball one time in the third quarter, and we ran the ball for 11 yards in that third quarter.
Yeah.
Quinn doesn't get his first throw of that quarter until like the very end of the quarter. So you've got to start where you ended positively, just so that you've got to let these guys see what's happening positively. And then you start with that and you build off of that.
Yeah. I personally think you again, it's situational football, just like Harish said, to piggyback off of him. I definitely think if and at any point that Texas is able to lean on Ohio State and that defensive line, you have to take advantage of it. You have to use every running back in the stable. You cannot depend on Trey. You cannot depend on Jaden. You cannot depend on just one running back. Everybody's got to have their hand in the mix. If that means you got to have two backs on the field, so be it. I don't care what kind of set it is. I don't care if it's trips. I don't care if it's pistol. I don't care if it's shotgun, which in my opinion, there is some things that I don't like about the shotgun situation. I don't like having Trey off to the right because we know what that is. We know that leads to some type of lead to the left through either either going through that B gap. Like, we don't need that. Mix it up, get some different variety of run plays out there. I would really like to see get somebody else involved that's not that nobody's been accounted for. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's Ryan. I don't know if that's Ryan Niblett. I don't know who that is, but get somebody out there that they haven't prepared for as well. You've got too much talent to not utilize it. At this point, throw the kitchen sink because everybody's thrown the kitchen sink at you and you've been able to hold them off. I don't think we've seen Texas throw the kitchen sink. I don't think we've seen Sark throw the entire playbook at one team. And now is the time to do it.
So Ewan's point here about the third quarter, that is valid in terms of we always normally have the lead. That's a problem because we've been giving up the lead, right? You almost smoked the game.
Yeah.
You almost smoked the game where you were up by plenty because you were so bad in the third quarter, right? And you were so conservative in the third quarter. To me, it's like you gotta play. You have to have that. Then that's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Because when the game gets tight in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden I see much more aggressive play calling. I see better tempo. I see, all of a sudden I just see us back to being in rhythm of us. And so to me, that starts with the sideline. They have to be more aggressive. And I know that's a very broad thing to say in terms of but aggressive meaning on whatever is working that day against that opponent that is putting them in a bind. Sometimes aggressive means outside zone.
Yeah.
And bludgeoning somebody to death.
Yeah.
Sometimes aggressive means throwing the ball downfield. Sometimes aggressive could be screens because they can't stop it. It's all just like Tim said, we do so many different things well. I think we try to hide from greatness sometimes a little bit.
Why are you holding back?
Why are you holding back?
We here. This is where you want to be.
You said all gas, no brakes. Like it really does feel like we're pumping the brakes sometimes. And you just kind of, I don't know, he just gets in his own. I don't know if you can't even call it. You get into your own head.
You know what?
Like,
Steve
you're doing something right. Keep going with it.
You know what? Steve was right. This is a Sark game. This ain't got shit to do with Quinn. This is a Sark game. Your motto is the standard is the standard. Your other motto is all gas, no brakes. These need to be those things need to come into fruition and within this next game. Even if you lose the national championship, this game in particular needs to be the game where you be like, okay, all right, they're building, they got something to build with right here. Because at this point, if Sark loses, the rumblings begin, and then there's like, oh well, we don't necessarily know if Sark's going to be able to get over the hump. He's had these great players. He's had these great drafts. He's had these great recruiting classes. He's had these great guys come in and contribute from other teams. He's had this great portal reign. Like, what's the deal? That's what starts to show up. We know he can win the big games. We've seen what Quinn can do in big games. So that's that expectation is there. The next thing is it's on the coach. Like, as you know, and at first I kind of disagree with Steve, but now I'm like, damn, like Quinn's gonna be gone regardless. I think we can all agree this is Quinn's last year, regardless if he stays in college or not. This is his last year. I don't see him staying in Texas, regardless. At that point, it's on Sark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and somebody said the pressure's on Ryan Day. The pressure is definitely on Ryan Day. I agree on that.
Sure.
I'm just saying from a Texas standpoint in terms of keys to victory. And when I'm talking about Sark, I'm more so talking about Sark, the play caller. Okay. Yep. Again, Sark, the head coach, we haven't had, the team has responded well that he's got guys playing for him. They've when it's really, really been clutch moments, they've responded. All those good things. Those are all characteristics of a well-coached football team that takes on the identity. They deal with adversity well. Those are all credit to Sark. I need the stuff where it's like, hey, in the offseason coaching clinic, it's like earlier in the season when we did the spinner counter and people in the NFL start running that stuff, or the Chiefs are copying. I need that Sark. That's what we need for this game because Ryan Day has Chip Kelly. Right. Okay, folks. Ryan Day is expected. His pressure is on him doing whatever it takes to win the game. With Sark, that's why, somebody asked it again. I think Jimbo was Jimbo the last person that was his own play caller to win the national championship for Florida State?
Yeah, with Jameis.
Oh wow, yeah.
Has
That was
every other
almost 10
head
years
coach?
ago.
That was about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Because that was
yeah.
2014 season. Yeah.
2016?
Yeah,
So
2014.
yeah.
2013,
So
2014.
yeah, it's harder. Sark is it's what he is doing is the level of difficulty is a little bit tougher because we don't have a designated play. He's the play caller. It's his offense. So when we're talking about these things of getting Quinn going and all these type of things, I'm defaulting to Sark at this point because the run game and everything else and how they navigate this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator for Arizona State, I thought he pitched a better game than Sark did. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave this game saying, man, Jim Knowles got after Sark today, man. He was I gotta leave this game checking the box, Tim.
Yep.
Haresh. Hey, Sark was in his bag today.
It's
I
literally
need to be able to
Sark
check
versus
that out.
Ryan Day and Chip versus PK. That is the matchup.
Chip versus PK is a hell of a fight.
We haven't really talked about that, right? And I kind of want to get to the other side of the other poll of like this defense versus the Ohio State offense. And I think before we get there though, what do you guys think about this coming out in 21 to force OSU to play that 3 high look, which is something something else Sark doesn't call enough of in 3 high to expose the middle of the field, because the middle of the field more often than not in a lot of these games has been open and Gunnar Helm is nowhere to be found. What do you guys think about the 21 package?
The 21 package is probably going to be your bread and butter at this point. With this game, you're going to have to 5 wide, and your 21 package is going to be probably your go-tos. This should be your base sets when you're coming into this game. You're going to need to be able to have that protection when needed, to be able to let Quinn check out of stuff and let Quinn, if he sees something with the defense, for him to be able to check out, get the ball in whoever is in the backfield, and get a base run, right? Especially if they're able to move it, you need to be able to have that base run, be able to check out of things, especially if they're giving you looks that you're not comfortable with, or you're able to check out of a run and get into some type of situation where you can get Gunnar Helm the ball, you can get Bond or Wingo, whoever's on the outside the ball. That's a thing. I think that Gunnar should. And Steve, you let me know. Me and Harish have been going back on this for the last month. Gunnar should have way more targets than he's had. I think at times they look to go to Gunnar when it's too late. I think they look to go to Gunnar when they need a big play, and Gunnar needs to be a part of the play. He needs to be a part of he needs to be a top target to me. In order to win these games and move these chains efficiently, he needs to be, I don't want to say he needs to be the entire focal point of the offense, but I think he needs to be the secondary. Maybe, in some cases he does need to be the first target.
It depends. Yeah, and
depending
last
on the
week, so the Arizona State game, I just thought they got to him too late. I didn't think he was getting, it's not like the Georgia game. Georgia's the only opponent where I'm looking at him like, okay, they did a good job of how they covered Gunnar Helm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I thought we just didn't take advantage of certain things in the Arizona State game. Obviously,
Absolutely.
Matthew Golden got going, right?
Yeah.
So that was obvious.
Right.
It's all matchups though, because the Clemson game, the slot was the matchup, which ended up being DeAndre Moore.
Yeah.
Where they couldn't cover slot. So it depends on what is their weakness and where is that hole, right? Because we should have somebody that can exploit it at every given turn, right? Now, if you can't guard tight ends, God bless you. We got one of the best ones.
Yeah.
If you can't guard slot, then DeAndre Moore needs to step up like he did against Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Or Matthew Golden goes off with if you're just going to leave him one-on-one, no help, cool.
Yep.
This might be, we haven't brought this person's name up. At what point does Isaiah Bond make his presence felt? because there's going to
There's
be
really
some
no other
sort
time.
Again, that's Steve.
There's
That's
no other
where I
time.
was saying that's where those empty sets come in. I need to see Bond out there wiggling. You need to make some shape. Okay, you need to be out there making people miss. You need to be out there gassing people with screens, gassing people with anything that you can get, either drags, crossings. I don't care. Again, this is a game where you throw the entire kitchen sink. You live by your motto, and you continue to try to march on to a national championship at this point.
If Isaiah Bond is as healthy as they're claiming him to be, he should have a huge game this week, because they haven't seen Bond in really in
Over a
any
month.
relevant and in any relevant capacity 6 weeks since that Florida game. You haven't really seen Isaiah Bond be utilized, and really that's when the offense started to have even bigger questions. You talk about third quarter woes, and the lows in the third quarter. Maybe Isaiah Bond is the answer, and it's like he opens a part of this offense that we haven't been able to figure out. And maybe that's something that he allows us to open up as a group. And I'm not sure if that's the answer or not, but that sounds like, something that you can kind of go to.
I wanted to answer your question in regards to defense. Defensively, for these Texas defensive backs, clearly, I think this is one of the more talented teams that they're going to see at offense. You got two studs, and generational talents with Smith and Emeka. Like they are going to be studs in the NFL. They're going to be very sought after high draft picks. I think from a defensive back standpoint, I think this is a point to where you got to basically hit those receivers in the mouth, and do it in a way to where you don't. It doesn't cost you. It doesn't cost you any penalties.
Yep.
You have to get bodies, not one, multiple bodies on these receivers, because they can break tackles. They're big. They're fast, and they can catch. Their catch radius is ridiculous. You have to thump these receivers. I want them to what we call alligator arms. You know what alligator's arms? Normally you see a wide receiver running, and he sticks his arms all the way out, and it looks pretty. You see the ball drop over the back shoulder fades and stuff like that. You get clocked. You go from here to here. That changes your radius of catching the ball no matter where you are. And the only way that stops, and the only way that you kill that radius, is if you put your shoulder pad into their body in a legal way. In a legal way, because there's been too many questions about targeting. We've had too many close calls. You have to do it in a legal way. That is the only way that you're going to really stop the deep ball. Of course, also, you need to put Will Howard on his butt. That has to happen too. But I think, if from a defensive back's perspective, you have to put your helmet on these guys. You got to put your shoulder pads on these guys. It's just
what you're saying is be the best version of you, and that's Texas, because that's what we have been doing. Andrew Makuba and Michael Taft, and I'll add Jelani McDonald to this as well.
Oh, Jelani McDonald has been so good these last.
They've been very physical with these receivers, and they've been very good in the open field of breaking down. If somebody does catch a ball, they have typically made them pay. Jade Barron as well. So that's really that's why I'm not with the whole play man double Smith and then
do that. Yeah.
No, I'm like, no, be the best because the best version of you is good enough even for this matchup, because that's what our game plan typically is to put physicality in those receivers and make those windows look different than they normally are, right? So I'm 100% with you on that, with the physicality. And I like the fact that we have, I wish we still had Derek Williams, because he was always a big game guy and could get the ball out in these games. That'd
would've
be
been great.
fun. But the personnel that we do have, we like, even the tight end G Scott, who they rolled out on the little boot thing and got a bunch of yards. Like, I know Jelani McDonald can cover stuff like that.
Right.
I know I got personnel no matter what look they give me, because you talked about 21 personnel for us, right? Well, guess what? They run a lot of 21 personnel too.
Yeah.
You're gonna see Henderson and Judkins.
Yeah.
They're gonna do the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that I have Michael Taft, Andrew McCool. I call them the brain trust, because they're so good. And I know one thing I will go to bat tomorrow feeling great about is I think their communication in a big game, they're going to be so on point. You're going to see a lot of talking in the backfield, especially knowing that they've gone through some adversity now. The Klubnik Clemson game, Manny had to go through a tough spot. A lot of guys. So hey, we got to talk through it. We got to work it out. Do you need help? Do we need to shade over a little bit? Whatever the call, are we getting the calls? Because there were times where it looked like, oh, I thought we were.
We were supposed to be over here. Yeah, I mean that halfback pass, man. It was more of like a great throw by Cam, right? Like whatever. But I think the coverage was just off, and it's like by the time Manny
they were confused. That was busted coverage. They were confused.
Taft comes up when he probably wasn't supposed to. Manny was probably expecting Taft to help.
Manny looked like it was cover 3 and Taft was going to be in the middle. That's what what it looked like to me. And he released him, and he's like, "Oh,
yeah." And then he turns around. And is like, "What are you doing?" But here's the thing about that play, though. It's like, forget busting the coverage. Whether Manny keeps going and has a shot at still picking it off or making a tackle, right? I think that's the other pieces. I felt like Manny gave up on that
play. Manny to me, I just think he's overthinking things. I really hope that he's gonna have his hands full, because they're gonna go at him a lot.
Yeah,
they're gonna go at him a lot.
The one thing about Manny, though, even last week is, I mean, he had that fumble, but that goof up on that play. But he saved 2 touchdowns that nobody talks about.
Yes, he did. There was when he in that back left-hand corner.
Yep, that was the first drive of the game, or maybe like the third drive of the game. Well,
that man put his body
quarter.
That man put his body out. He stretched his entire body out to stop that pass in the back of that end zone. And
he made a play on McLean later in the game too, in the end zone. That ended up getting the ball out. It was an incomplete pass. So he ended the game positively to me.
Yeah.
And look, if we're over here talking about blowing you up because of a halfback trick play, that's pretty good, right? It's not like it was like, I'd rather be talking about that of why you release somebody than on a routine like the Jaden Greathouse touchdown that gave up today where you fall on your ass.
Yeah.
I'd rather have
you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that guy. Jesus. Oh my gosh. That game, man. There were just moments in the game. I was like, what are these defense?
That game, honestly, that first half was kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah.
Which I usually like those type of games.
Like the defense, though.
I do like the defense. But when your quarterback is giving the ball up multiple times, like the way that they did, I'm
giving it up, man.
I'm like, come on, bro.
It's like watching Quinn throw those medicine balls. I think somebody said earlier, like, I don't need Quinn throwing medicine balls. Bro, both quarterbacks were throwing medicine balls today. I don't know what they were doing. Just like throwing shit up, just throw shit up.
The moment was way too big for Drew Aller.
Yeah.
That was way. You could poor guy. It was. I could see that it was like the guy at Oklahoma State a few years ago where his hand was shaking before the ball was snapped. He was like, he doesn't want this.
That guy's not gonna make it. Yep.
At least CTE Leonard was able to lead his team down the field a couple times, and that boy, they just use him like a crash test dummy and just run him into.
I think that's exactly what they did with Cam last week.
Yeah, whatever.
I think that Cam was basically, and Harish will to tell you, I'm not a Cam Scatterboo fan. That dude was concussed last week.
Riley Leonard was concussed tonight.
Yeah,
and they just said
Tyler Warren was concussed.
Tyler Warren was concussed.
I told you
the game's too big.
There was some hit. Listen,
when Tyler
I
Warren
don't
hit his
know.
head, the first thing I
How-
looked for is the shaking we talked about last week, bro. He was just like, I was like, yeah.
How are they getting through this concussion protocol?
They're just not doing it. They're just going into the tent, probably like saying, "Hey, man, how you doing? I'm good. All right, cool, man. Peace." And then they probably like, I don't know if they negatively, I don't know if they have to like report what they do in there. I don't know what they got to do. But yeah, there are guys.
There was some concussed dudes out here today. You know what I'm saying? It was
college kids, bro.
The lady asked him after the game, Riley Leonard in the post, because that's why I wanted to see her a little bit. I was like, she said, "How did you get back in the game?" He was like, I was a little woozy. But then, I just
But all of a sudden, that was good.
I was just good, man. I was fine. I shook it off. I just had to shake it off. But he said it. He actually said it. He's like, what I got? I was a little woozy.
I literally said that. I said, "There's like," I told her,
not funny.
It's not a post game.
I said, "Oh, he's hurt. He's hurt."
That was wild,
no
man.
concussion protocol in the playoffs. You got to be out cold for them to take away your helmet, buddy.
But even then, like when Tyler Warren catches that ball on the sideline, he sat there for a second too.
Dude, his head hit the field.
The field, yeah.
When he got tackled, his head went bloop, and you can see him get up, and he's like, "Ooh, wait, all right." And he kind of walks off, and then next thing you know, he's right back in the game. You're like, well, what the? Wait, dog, you didn't want to get looked at. You just took some water, huh? You got some Gatorade and went right back in the.
That's when the coach, man, back in the day before like I remember in high school, man, they'd be like, "Yo, just keep your helmet on. Just
keep your helmet on. Don't say nothing."
Because keep your helmet on and don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Right.
Yep.
Go out there, pretend like nothing happened, bro.
Yep.
Tyler Warren never took his helmet off again, bro.
At all. Bro, Gunnar Stockton was concussed too, man. You can't tell me that dude wasn't concussed.
Man, yeah, it's crazy.
But, going back to the defense, obviously you don't need to shade. You don't need to do you've got to hit the guy. I know Tim mentioned that. Talk about this defensive line versus Ohio State's offensive line, because earlier you talked about opportunities. You talked about like there's weaknesses. This offensive line for Ohio State, they're very banged up, and especially in pass pro, not very
good. Texas has to win this matchup decisively.
Yeah.
Period.
I would agree.
Period. There's even tape. I mean, there's reps that Oregon won where but Will Howard was smart and just threw the ball away and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Texas has to be a very clear thing early in the game. I'm talking first quarter where you're like, whoa. And we're talking about as a group effort because we're going to be rotating a lot of guys. Trey Moore's going to play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously with Colin Simmons, we're going to need Colin Simmons to be a superstar on third downs, especially.
Yep.
But I'm looking at my OGs, and my OGs are the two people that started at defensive end last season for the playoff team. Mm-hmm. Because these are the people I'm going to need to deal with counter.
Yep.
I need Ethan Burke to deal to help me with counter. I need Baron Sorrell to help me with counter. I think they're up for the task.
Yeah.
If they can do that, and then I can rotate my rushers, and I have Alfred, Vernon, everybody doing their thing inside so that they don't, because I don't think that they can run inside zone on them. Even Lole and all them.
You shouldn't be able to. With that interior defensive line, they shouldn't be able to. And if they do, we could be in trouble.
So now with all this counter that they're doing, it's really about my edges holding up and 10 the line of scrimmage, man. And my backers. This game is going to be in Anthony Hill's hands. Ant Hill, I thought he was a little too revved up in the Arizona State game at times.
He overcommitted on a lot.
He was overcommitting.
Yeah.
If I can get him to scale down a little bit, him, David Benda, Leona Leifau, and my boy Game Speed, Mo Blackwell. Mo Blackwell, you owe me one, by the way.
Bro, come on, Mo. You cannot get that.
You owe us one.
Bro, listen, get it out of the way. First punt of the game. Let's just get it out of the way so nobody thinks about it. And if you're even close and you think you're gonna hit him, just stop.
Just stop. Just stop.
I think funny. Abdul Carter did that. You see the last punt that Notre Dame had? Abdul Carter was like this far from the punter. He literally stopped in his tracks.
Yeah.
Like you cannot get that close and miss again.
If you can't touch that ball, if you're not touching that ball, do not touch that kicker.
You better do something different because
you gotta do something. But defensively, from a defensive line's perspective, yes, this is you're absolutely right, Steve. You have to be able to do and be effective on the line of scrimmage. You're gonna have to. Them defensive ends are gonna be in for a game.
Yeah,
you have to contain the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to contain. You got to be able to. You got to keep these offensive tackles from pulling and getting to the second level. You get to the second level, that's too late. You're too late. Okay,
Travion, because their backs are running it too well. Travion and they will eat us alive.
Yeah, you're too late. You cannot let these tackles get to the second level. You want to, at that point, based on what they're running, you don't want to run anything super crazy from a running standpoint. I would like to see a couple of things happen from a clear passing standpoint. I would like to see a little bit of I'd like to see some confusion. I'd like to see them move the defensive ends around in passing situations only, right?
Okay.
Because I want to see how these new offensive linemen how they utilize and how they use their feet to protect, and can the center call the right protections and figure out who is doing what and finding out who's blitzing where from where. I would like to see that. But if it ain't working, you got to go back to the basics. And that is a thing that I think Sark and has not done. I think PK has been a little bit more on, being able to go back and realize that this isn't working for us. But if it's not working, go back to what you were doing, do what works for you, and just go there. It's again, this is all very simple. It's all very plain. Run what you do what you do best, and execute that way, and you'll win the ball game.
There's one more thing I think this defensive line has to do, and they've done a really, really good job of it the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up in the passing lanes. When Will Howard throws that ball, you've got to get tip balls, because that's all. Tip balls is a method of distraction, right? If the ball gets tipped, he's going to think twice about throwing it back in that same direction, whether it's to Jeremiah Smith or whoever he's throwing the ball to.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Will Howard's prone to getting a couple balls tipped. Quinn Ewers is prone to the same thing, and that's something he's going to have to avoid as he goes tomorrow as well. But you cannot afford. You have to get your hands up as well, because getting to the quarterback is one thing, pressuring him is one thing. Obviously, watching out for the run, because he's not like speedy or anything, but he can make you pay.
He can get where he needs to be,
right?
And he can get out of dodge, and he's a
little bigger too, right? So
yeah, he's bigger than Quinn. He's bigger than Quinn.
But you've got to get your hands up, and if you can distract some passing lane stuff, it only takes one tip ball to just go straight up in the air and pop into Collinson's arms.
That also frustrates the offensive line, right? Because even if you're not able to even if you're able to uphold your assignment, there's not too much you can do from stopping somebody from putting their hands up, other than absolutely trying to hold them. So, from an offensive line's perspective, if you can get your hands up in those passing lanes, that will infuriate any offensive lineman. I can tell you from personal experience. Yep. If you want to piss off an offensive lineman, start swatting.
Who's really good at that is Alfred Collins.
Alfred Collins is very good at that.
Ethan Burke is good at it too.
Ethan Burke and Alfred Collins. Yeah, especially if they somebody talked about maybe using Ethan at some DT. I'm with it. To get him some more snaps, but he's been great recently. I mean, he got a field goal block in the Arizona State game as well. So those two
one
guys
that actually did go in. The one that went in off the bounce after the rule that doesn't exist.
Man.
Oh yeah, should that field goal counted? Learn the rules, guys.
Yeah.
Speaking of field goal kicking, I want to bring this up because one of my subscribers, Caleb, if you're listening out there, Caleb Kramer, sent me a very cool message regarding the Burt Auburn situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, and Caleb basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he talked about just Burt as a human being and going through the struggles and how badly he wants this. Just having the positive vibes out there for him, right? And just, hey, man, we want you to do your job. Nobody wants it more for you than we do. It's frustrating, and I'm sure, but we are frustrated with you. And, you need to do your job. You need to, just like any other player we expect, right? I mean, if they're not doing their job, they got to sit down or what have you. But as a kid and whatnot, we still understand you're a human being, right? And some of the stuff has gotten, he's a college kicker and you got to deal with it. But I'd love to see us come through with him the same way Mitch Jeter on Notre Dame, who had some struggles throughout the year, got right, and he's been money in the playoffs. And Caleb, thank you for sending that message and just that reminder that, Burt still needs some love from this fan base. Needs to know that people are behind him. Because if you don't feel that, then you can't have the kicker go in there.
No.
I mean,
what's your
it's
level
so psychological.
Comfort? What's your level of comfort for, like, hey, first quarter, right? What yardage would you say? You know what? Let's start to get Burt some practice, if you will. Like, how far were you willing to say to just get him that confidence and start building that up? How far are you willing to go?
Well, I think it's just a question of when you're in your range. I mean, because Burt's range is basically 48 and in. That's what I think they typically see.
Yeah.
Unless it's like the end of half scenario or something like that. But typically it's 48 and in. I think it's just a question of, are you asking, because there's going to be some areas, if it's 4th and 16 and it's a 35-yard field goal attempt, he has to kick.
Yeah.
I can't hide that, right?
Yeah, that is a must. You have to get that.
But
this is also
the question is at what's the threshold of that 4th down where Burt is kicking?
Correct. Yeah. What is that threshold for you?
I think it's 40.
5?
I think he can't be.
No. Is it 4th and 5, or is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
4th and I see what you're saying. To me, I think it's 4th and 5. I'm going. Anything 4th and 5, I'm going. I know that sounds crazy.
That sounds so scary.
That sounds crazy, but I mean, it's also just the emphasis on needing to score touchdowns and understanding I have a defense. If I'm in the red zone, I almost have to do the analytics thing of, as they say, if you get close enough, if you kick a field goal, is it +3 or is it -4 from the 7 you would have had?
Right.
Like, so then it's like that analytics thing kind of. But for me, I think you have to be aggressive minded, but at some point you're going to need to have him ready to go. And that would be the threshold for me. But,
this is the other Sark moment that frustrates me. The fact that Sark doesn't know which hash marker Burt is the best from at this point, he doesn't intentionally get it to those hash markers. I think it is that's another Sark thing where it's I think is it the left hash where he's his best because of the way he angles the ball back in, or he tends to angle the ball back in.
His balls, his
trajectory naturally, I think
he's now missed to both sides.
Yeah, but normally the way he kicks a ball, it does kind of hook back in. Pause.
Right.
It
tends to hook back in.
Yeah, it doesn't. And in golf terms, it's gonna fade a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's gonna slicing is outward, fading is more in. So
right.
If he's a kicker, you kind of want him on that left hash. If you can get him in the middle, of course, that would be great. But he tends to fade a little bit. So if you can get him on that left hash,
hopefully, maybe it's just an Atlanta thing.
Maybe it is because
Maybe it is. I don't know.
the
because he
most
does
missed
pretty
field
well at
goals.
home.
He did have two that he should have hit. I think there was one against Mississippi State. No, Vanderbilt. Was it the Vanderbilt game he missed the field goal?
That Vanderbilt was in Nashville.
My bad. It might have been Mississippi State.
No,
But
there was a home game where he missed something. I know what
yeah,
you're talking.
and it was relatively close. And then the Michigan game,
Yeah, Michigan game.
He missed one in there.
he was on the right hash.
Yep.
He missed it.
Okay, well,
So
I know there is something, and I can't remember what it is, but there are two other chats I want to check out here real quick.
Mhm.
That I saved because I just learned how to do this. We don't get a lot, so I just learned how to save chats. How do you feel about Cam Williams returning? This is going to help the run game significantly.
Great
That's the first
question.
thing.
yeah,
This is an excellent question. This helps the run game significantly because in the run game, Cam Williams is a mauler.
yep,
If you remember the Clemson game, we ran it to the right a lot because Cam Williams was, bro. You could run through those holes.
yeah,
The holes that were opening up on the right hand side were, and I think that's the thing. The thing Trevor Gooseby does well, and he's still young, but he's very very good.
yeah.
Is he's a great pass blocker, and
Mhm.
and that has translated to both sides of the line, right? But in games like this, and I think this is where we struggled a lot. The run game, I think, is where we're really going to benefit for Cam.
Right. If you looked at the ASU game again, Trey was, a lot of the times Trey was on the right side of the line. He was on the strong side, and he was tapering off to the left side. With Cam Williams being at the right tackle, this opens up. He's a lane opener. He can give you an opportunity to go outside, cut back inside. Because he's just been that dominant at that right tackle position. But again, without him, I think we have been very one-dimensional when it comes to running the ball. We only wanted to run to the left. We only wanted to we only wanted to run counters to the left. We didn't really do any direct snaps, but it was like everything was to the left, and that became a thing. And these defenses were able, and these coordinators were able to pick up on that. So you do put your guys in situations where guys are going to get in the box, and they're just going to go for it. They're going to try to shoot gaps.
Yep.
And they're going to try to make a play, and that happened a lot. Trey was getting hit against Arizona State. He was getting popped. Okay,
Yep.
Being able to have, when you have your entire offensive line intact, that makes so much. We're getting healthy at the right time. Just to put it in that way, getting healthy at the right time.
I want to add one other point about the Cam Williams thing, because this is a big storyline. The matchup with Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer's a beast.
Jack Sawyer is a beast.
Jack Sawyer's a beast, and they'll move him around, but for the most part, Jack Sawyer's going to be coming from that particular side, and JT Tuamalo, that's going to be more of Kelvin Banks's matchup, most likely. So that alone, but and look, the numbers of what you guys are talking about, spot on, right? Like Cam Williams is grading out as one of the best outside zone blockers in the country.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer is one of the best outside zone defensive players in the country. Something's got to give. It's just like Jahdae Barron, who's like the number one coverage grade, versus Jeremiah Smith, who's the number one receiving grade. Something's got to give, right? So at least we're going to see that matchup. But to me, the bigger thing, and this is just, and Tim, you get this because you played. Bro, I need my bullies. Cam's one of my bullies. Cam's one. Look, that's why
the goons
people
have
get
got
mad
it
about the penalties. And thank you to my boy Chris Simpkins, who came on the other day from Unfiltered Longhorn Talk, because he made this point about Cam Williams, and he compared him to Eric Williams of the Cowboys back way in the 90s, when he was like, yo, the Cowboys couldn't function running the ball when Eric Williams wasn't there because the bully wasn't there.
Right.
And he's the guy in the Michigan game. You remember people were getting mad about the false start penalties. But what I kept saying was, look what he's doing to Rayshon Benny.
Right.
He's literally putting Rayshon Benny is going to be
getting under that pad, bro. Getting under that pad, bro.
Putting him in the second level, right?
I need, like, bro. Even if you get, sometimes it's like, yo, you might get a 15-yard unnecessary roughness or whatever. But he's setting the tone. It's the same point that Tim is talking about with the DBs versus the receivers. There has to be a level of intimidation.
Yep.
He is our most intimidating player. He's more intimidating than Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
He's the one that's going to talk.
Yep.
He's the one that gets into scraps.
Yep.
And it's him and Jake Majors. They're the ones that kind of, get after.
Forgot when there was a situation where they had hit Quinn late, and guess who showed up? Guess who showed up?
You ain't messing with my guy, bro. That's the number one guy that showed up.
It was Cam and Jake that showed up. Those are the two guys. Those are your maulers. You got to get those guys rolling. You get them rolling, that's a problem for Ohio State. I don't care what anybody says.
Jake and Cam are the guys you go out to the bar with and nobody's messing with you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Fair enough.
So you need that. In a game like this, against dudes like that, you need that. You need that. I'm sorry. When phone booth football moments, it's the same thing like the 49ers when they have like Trent Williams going at a certain level. Like it's a different energy.
Yeah.
So it's not just what he gives you technically. Yes, he gives us a lot, but it's also we need our bully in there. The first guy off the bus type stuff.
This is the second one that came up. Speaking of kicking. The special teams, obviously you call about the fake punch, right? The special teams in general, I think has hurt us the last couple of games. I think was it twice they ran fake punts last week? They ran it. Did they run it twice? Or was it just the one in the fourth?
No,
quarter?
they had that.
Yeah, it was one.
They had one, but the thing is, it feels like multiple because of the Mo Blackwell situation. Because they converted multiple punts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
or was there one in the Clemson game?
There wasn't a fake in the Clemson game, but in the Georgia game.
Yes. The Georgia game, that's what it was. Yeah. So,
and they did it with the backup punter.
Yeah. Which
that's right. Which is
frustrating
in itself. I think the special teams in general has to be good this week.
No, they just need to be sound.
Attention.
Yeah, they've got to be detailed. That's where all the details are. Like these are momentum swinging things, right? A fake punt swings the momentum 180 degrees. And it takes so much. Look,
I've never seen Sark so pissed off.
I think it was Desmond today was talking about like when momentum swings your way or doesn't swing or against you, you have to work twice as hard to get it back.
Yep.
Right. And
sometimes
so when
you don't even get it.
That's happens. When something like this happens, like it takes a long time for you to even try to get it back. And by the time you get it back, depending on when it occurs, it might be too late.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Steve, maybe do we know who the reffing crew is? Who's going to be reffing this game? Is it going to be Big Ten crew?
ACC, right?
Because I don't want to see any Big Ten refs.
It can't be Big Ten. It's either going to have to be ACC or Big 12.
Yeah. I think it's ACC.
It's probably, or maybe, but where's Kevin Marr associated with?
That's Big 12.
I think it's Big 12 then, because I heard Kevin Marr was reffing the game.
No, it is ACC. Jerry Magellanes.
Are y'all saying probably, or y'all know for sure? Because I heard Kevin Marr was involved.
I'm looking at it right now. Oh,
Big 12 was tonight? Okay, good.
And they did pretty good. Good.
I think they kept Kevin Marr out of the playoffs, man. Like that guy is destructible. Okay. And I don't know what that
maybe that was just me having some PTSD then. So then I'm cool with that. I wanted to make a quick point on the punt thing. I saw a very interesting clip of Jim Tressel, and he was talking about he made the comment, he said punt. This is Jim Tressel. I forgot who he was talking to, but he said punt is the most important play in the game. And the guy was like, what are you talking about? He was like, think about it. There's nothing that can lose you a game faster than something disastrous happening on punt. You're out. Like he was like, if you give up a punt return for a touchdown, you're probably going to lose the game.
Yep.
If somebody blocks your punt, or
It's not a good sign.
He was like, "There's nothing more crushing than somebody doing a fake punt on you.
It's a
like it destroys your sideline."
Yeah.
So I was like, "That's actually a good point."
Yeah, and again, it makes sense because like if something like that happens, even like a fumbled like field goal, right? Like,
Jim Tressel and John Gruden. He was talking to John Gruden. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's I need to go find that. But
it was a really interesting clip. The way he explained it, he was like, "Think about it. If somebody runs a punt back, because he brought up and I brought this up too when I was on Bleacher Report doing national stuff." The Ohio State Indiana game, 2 plays. The Indiana punter that couldn't catch the punt, and and then Caleb Downs returning the punt for a touchdown. He was like, those 14 points blew the whole game open. The game's over.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Nick Saban was talking about like a couple plays like that today in that same game, and it was a 17-point swing.
Yeah,
and like less than a minute, I think is what it was. It was just a boom, 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 boom. The same thing happened in the Oregon this last week in the Oregon Ohio State game. It wasn't punts or anything, but it's like a couple of interceptions, a couple easy like 5-yard touchdowns. Boom, you're already looking at down 21-point swing.
They made it look easy. God,
but to Steven's point earlier, they are front runners. They want it to. This is what they want to do. Is get up on you early. This is what they want to do. They scored 7 points in the second half last week. You could argue Texas is the same way. Texas wants to front run too. Like they want.
That's why I'm calling them front runners because it takes one to know one, baby.
Right.
That's why I'm like, but the thing is, at least we've seen Texas when they're not in those spots. We've had to win ugly.
That's
true. We've had to win. My thing is, I look at Ohio State. Y'all were 20-point, 3 touchdown favorites over Michigan. And when it was 13-13 in that fourth quarter, I could feel the nervousness from Ohio State through the TV. There was so much anxiety on everything they were doing. And it wasn't just as a fan, it was a close game. Like we've been big favorites, like we were Vanderbilt, right? We were big favorites. Yep. The game's close. There's anxiety, but you pull it out, right? You figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Michigan game, they could literally no one could do anything. Like it was just like, why are we close? Why?
There's so much confusion. Yeah. Also in the Oregon game, and the one reason why I wanted Oregon over Ohio State is Oregon can't stop the run. I don't know why people never notice that. Even in the wins that they had. They gave up 200 yards easy in most of their win, and almost in damn near every game. Didn't they play like Pittsburgh and they gave up like 180 yards or 190 yards or something ridiculous on the
Oregon was due.
Oregon's defense is not good.
They got exposed in the Big Ten championship game.
Yep.
They didn't make the proper corrections after that. And then on top of that, they looked like they had a layoff. They looked like a team that hadn't played football in a while.
Yeah.
And once they were able to figure out, dude, we can literally run this ball, and they started by throwing the ball. The secondary wasn't very good. Like no. I didn't even think Oregon's secondary was that bad, but they
looked confused. They looked out of position. They didn't look like they were communicating with each other, and Ohio State just sat back and just let it rip. And when you run into a situation like that, fingers start to get pointed. People start to try to do their own thing, start trying to play hero ball, and that's just it's just all downhill from there. You don't really recover from situations like that. You can clearly see them on the field arguing with each other, trying to tell each other where they're supposed to be, or confused and not knowing where they're supposed to be. And that was it was a wrap in the first 10 minutes of that.
10 minutes. It was a wrap before we even got to.
It was real bad. Do y'all have any predictions for the game?
I was gonna say, any other analysis? I think we've hit every part of this game. Any final like thoughts on the actual like game, and then I just want quick predictions. We can get out of here. We've been almost an hour and a half. So
my only thing is like if Texas can run the ball, do what you can, lean on these guys, run the ball, get out of there, try to stay healthy as much as possible, and get to the next game. If you can't run the ball, empty the clip, stay on their necks, and make them pass the ball.
Yeah. What do you got, Steven?
I think the defensive line is going to make their presence really felt. Everything else is, it feels crazy kind of thinking about it. But the defensive line is where I really feel as though that marriage with the communication of my secondary, I think that they'll be able to turn over Will Howard. That's where I'm going with this. That. Yeah. I think they will be able to turn over Will Howard. I think that they are going to change the picture. I think PK and Nansen know Ohio State essentially has two different variations of their offense. So the only way you're really going to, with all of that at the table, you're going to have to bang on the trigger man. And the trigger man's Will Howard. Confuse him. They will be frustrated with certain guys not getting the football and things of that sort. So that's got to be the key for Texas here. And to give them a chance to win the game.
Fair. I'll kind of leave it at this, right? These two teams are very, very good. These are the two best rosters in college football. Styles make matchups, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about styles. The style here is which group or which position can make that one play that's going to make a change or that's going to impact the game the most, right? Because I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game. And to me, kind of like Steven said, I think it's the defensive line. The defensive line could make if the defensive line can make its presence felt in a big way, which they've done at multiple points all season. I think we're going to get a different game than what probably a lot of people expect us to get. By no means do I think, Ohio State's going to blow this game open. And by no means do I think Texas will blow this game open. But I think the biggest position group across either team that could have the biggest impact on this game is the Texas defensive line.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's more of like speed. This is like a power versus speed matchup, right?
I think Texas has both power and the speed. I think that's what makes them special.
Sure. Yeah, no. I agree with that. That's what
makes them special is that you do have an Alpha Collins and you do have an Ethan Burke and a Sorrells, and you do have those other guys that will rotate in and contribute to attacking that Ohio State offensive line. So yeah, I think that makes the combination of power and speed makes it all worthwhile.
For sure. All right, Steven, what do you got?
I'm going to go 28-25 Texas.
Is there a Bird Auburn win in there, or is that the defense seals it?
I think that's the defense selling it. I think that this is going to be a game that looks, in terms of the way the scoring takes place.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to look similar to what we saw today.
Yeah.
With Penn State and Notre Dame. I think there may be a chance where somebody's up maybe 10-7 or whatever, not too much margin. It's going to be a back and forth battle. I think Texas, as long as they're able to keep it within range come the fourth quarter, that's been my theme. Two themes I've been on all week: attention to detail and the fact that when the money's on the table, I believe Texas is more comfortable in their own skin than Ohio State is with the money on the table. If Ohio State gets up 17-0, or something crazy like that, they're gonna run away with it. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if it's right there for the taking, and they start feeling that pressure, and Ryan Day starts feeling that pressure, and it permeates into his team, then Texas can pull this thing out at the end of the game and win the game on defense.
You said 28-25?
28-25 Texas.
What you got, Tim?
I have kind of the similar. I'm right around that 20 mark. I'm seeing 24-21 Texas. Here's why. Defensively, I think it is about the defensive line and seeing what they can do. Again, I think the defensive backs will set the tone first. I think that will trickle throughout the defense. That will give, if your defensive backs are able to shore up and do what they need to do and handle business, I think that gives that Texas defensive line and those guys to the confidence that they can get to Will Howard and they can stop the run. I personally believe that Texas will be able to move the ball if they're able to move the ball, which, again, tempo, making sure that they minimize, the penalties and the false starts and things like that. I think they have a really, really good shot to even be ahead in the fourth quarter if they're able to navigate those third quarter woes, man. Those third quarter woes has been a real thorn in our side. And I think if you can just do that, I'm not saying that you got to hold on, but I'm saying like just play your game and again, do what you do best, and you should be able to come out with this. I think these, as far as talent is concerned, I think these teams are neck and neck. I do like Quinn over Will. I've always liked Quinn over Will. Again, Will has been, Texas has seen Will 4 times. And so with that being said, I think they will know what to do and how to prepare for him. And I think that's a big factor in this. I also believe that Quinn showing them that he could play, because remember, Quinn, left, was originally committed to Texas and left to Ohio State, when they gave him that big NIL deal. And then, dipping out of that, unfortunately, and coming back to Texas, that was a big move for us. And so, maybe he has a chip on his shoulder and wants to prove. I don't know if y'all caught it last week, but when he won last week, he posted a picture and confetti, but he had the little chill guy theme playing in the background. So, I think this is a game where he can really catapult himself into stardom, prior to an NFL draft.
Yeah.
And so, this is either put up or shut up. I honestly believe if they're able to beat Ohio State, they win the national championship. I know that's getting ahead, but I believe that this would be the toughest opponent that they will face. Yeah. And that's just how I believe it. What you got?
We've seen quarterbacks skyrocket boards during the playoff, right?
Oh yeah.
Most recent one, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was initially thought of to maybe be up there, was definitely top 10, maybe dropped to 7 or 8. Yeah. In a losing effort, he has the game versus Georgia, and he's automatically, arguably, should have been the first.
Nobody doubted him after that, Georgia.
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, automatically was the second pick, right? So even if Quinn loses tomorrow, right? Like, and this is why this is the ultimate Quinn Ewers legacy game. His play tomorrow, people are saying 3rd round, 2nd round. Dude, he could shoot up back to the middle of the 1st round if he plays really well tomorrow, right? Yeah. And then you play well tomorrow, and then you play well in the national title game. If you get there, you're the draft boards. People, recency bias is so insane in our world now that you'll be back in the 1st round in no time, right?
Yeah, it's on top of being a Sark coach quarterback and the way he works out. They still talk about him throwing at Worthy and JT Sanders and all them pro day. They still, because he was the one that threw, and that's why they are all over. They went crazy. The NFL people were like, "Well, is he eligible?"
Right.
So they've already.
He's going to test well. We know this. He's going to test very well. He might be, like, from a testing perspective, Quinn's going to be the best quarterback, right?
Yeah.
If he's not, definitely top 2.
Which is why he was rated so high coming out of high school.
exactly.
Because when they went to camps and where they grade and all that, he's always going to look good doing all those things. So, absolutely. And the adversity he's been through being the quarterback at Texas, he will interview well in that regard too.
Mentally tough, man. And in the NFL, there's not very many mentally tough quarterbacks. Maybe one. Is Mahomes the only one?
The only mentally? No, come on, man. Like Matthew Stafford. I'd say Josh Allen's mentally tough. I think most of them are. I think it's just
there.
I think Joe Burrow's mentally tough. I think
Joe Burrow.
I mean,
Joe Burrow.
I think he's definitely mentally tough.
If that was a 10-win team, he might have won the MVP. He was insane this year.
Yeah.
He was insane. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. I have Texas winning 27-24.
We all have won by 3. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's all around the same score, right? I think you had 28. I have 27. Tim has 24. Like, I think for me, and I actually was, as soon as the matchup was set, I was like, you know what? I think Ohio State wins a close one, right? And then you start to look at the matchups. You start to look at where can you pick and choose advantages. And to me, I think the difference is going to be this defensive line.
Offensive defensive lines. I think
we have an advantage in the trenches on both ends.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like go crazy. Like when you put those trenches together and just think the trenches as a whole, I think Texas has an advantage. And because of how poor that offensive line is, I don't think particularly overall it's really close. Because the defensive lines, I think the offensive defensive line for Ohio State and Texas's offensive line, especially with Cameron Williams and Kelvin Banks back and healthy, I think it's very close. But then when I look at
fun NFL matchup, by the way,
very fun.
We're going to see a lot of those guys playing against each other.
The ends and the tackles is going to be like that's NFL, the big time, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, right? But then when I look at our defensive line and their offensive line, just because of the injuries that they have, it's a huge mismatch.
Yeah.
It's not just a miss. I think it's a huge mismatch. And if our edges can create some issues, I think it actually opens up for the interior because then you might even see like double teams where maybe there probably won't be. Again, I'm not the most technical like football guy, but if you're having trouble outside, guys are going to need to help in places they probably haven't needed to normally. And I think that
gives your linebackers opportunities to make plays. That's what that does.
Linebackers can fill in holes. They can probably play a little bit more downhill. Like there are things that opens up when things like that happen. But regardless, I think both of these defenses keep this game under control from a scoring perspective because they're just both very good. As units, they're very good. So I have Texas winning 27-24. But we've been going 250 of you guys in here. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. This is awesome. Shout out to you, Steven. I know it was late night. We were trying to figure this out like after the game tonight. We've all got work tomorrow, but I appreciate it. Where can the people find you, man?
Yep. Fanatic Persepctive on all platforms. YouTube, of course. We're cross-streaming here. So folks, I want to help out my Longhorn Fan Battle podcast brothers here. Go over to their platform. You'll see it on there, whether it's on Twitter or what have you, but especially on YouTube, and subscribe. They're trying to get over 100. There's over 100 people in here right now. Just helping them get over. It helps with the algorithm. It helps us grow. So that's my ask for those of you in there. Please go ahead, even before giving me a like or anything like that. Help Tim and Harish out. They do a great job, and they've got a bright future ahead of them with all Longhorn content, right? This is just a beautiful platform for us as, content creators and serving the community, especially independently, that we're all doing. And so we just appreciate all the love and getting here, because this is all fan led. That's the beauty of it.
Yep.
So Fanatic Persepctive though, and appreciate you guys for having me on. I will be at the Cotton Bowl.
Awesome.
Tomorrow night. I am sitting in section 121.
Nice.
I believe. So if you're over around 121 or down there, come say what's up. I'll be there with Tran. Hopefully, Tran's able to make it here, but because I live pretty much by the AT&T, so I could walk there. But
yeah,
I can't wait for tomorrow night to go root for my Longhorns and see us kick the Buckeyes'
how's the
ass.
weather?
How's
How's
the
the
weather?
weather where you are?
Yeah.
Oh, the snow just picked up just like about an hour ago. It wasn't too bad before, but it was for me. It's been icy, but now the snow is really coming down.
Yeah. Dallas,
y'all be safe out there. Hopefully the roads start to clear up they should be cleared up by game. They've heard by game time they should be cleared up, right? Like it's supposed to get warm enough for the roads to clear out.
Hopefully, that's the
hope. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, you be safe. If you guys are traveling out to the game, be safe. I was so tempted, and then I heard all the snow stuff, and I was like, you know what? I think I'll be all right. So
Yeah.
I think I'm good right where I'm at. So I'll be at the comfort of my own home. But we appreciate you coming on, and thanks for shouting us out. We appreciate that as well. Tim, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Twitter at Tim Wayne. Again, shout out to you guys, Fanatic Persepctive. I really do appreciate you guys coming in here. You guys are lively, you guys are active, and that's what we're trying to build on every Longhorn channel here. Not just us and not just Fanatic Persepctive. We want to build a community. We want to build a strong community. We have one of the strongest fan bases in the world. There's Longhorns all over the place here. And for the Longhorns that are out there on the West Coast, man, if you're being affected or have any families affected by that wildfire, man, my thoughts and prayers out to you. This is something that we've never seen before, to have the West Coast just in flames like this. And then for us to be getting this bad weather up in Dallas and things like that, this is just different times, man. It's very, very different, you know. We normally get that one winter blast, but this has been longer than we expected. This is a little different. So
at the same time, too, right? I think that's unheard of, where you get the wildfire and the snow at the same time.
Yeah. So that's what makes it this what makes it kind of feel a little different, man. It's a little icky, but hopefully I think our Longhorns will be able to pull it out. I think we do have a real special team, and I think people will start to see that more. Again, that recency bias is super crazy.
Sure.
But I appreciate you guys. Make sure that you follow us on TikTok. I know we still got a couple weeks left to go. I don't know where we'll make the migration, if we'll make the migration from TikTok to Lemonade or from TikTok to Instagram. I don't know yet. Me and Harish haven't really had an opportunity to discuss that. But man, shout out to you guys. I really do appreciate it. Y'all guys stay safe. Again, keep the West Coast in your thoughts and prayers. And let's try to get this dub and support Texas as best as we can.
For sure. Yes, sir. And then of course you guys can find me at the Uncle Gandhi. Same thing, man. For those of you guys on the West Coast, I've got friends out there. Y'all stay safe. If you've got family out there, you haven't spoken to them in a while, reach out to them, make sure they're good. You never know when things can change at the blink of an eye. And so, our thoughts and prayers out to those folks out west. And of course, to our friends up north, like guys like Steven, y'all stay safe too, right?
Yeah,
stay inside. Don't try to drive the roads overnight, especially in all this craziness. Stay warm.
That Mavericks game was empty. That Mavericks game was empty tonight.
They had tickets for like $6.
Bro, the Mavs got the dub for us. I mean, the tickets were cheap anyway because like 80% of the team is hurt. So they got the dub for us. They took care of us so that you didn't have to. So y'all stay home safe, be safe there. Hook 'em horns. And you can also again find us on Twitter at LH Fan Battle. Find us on TikTok.
Yep.
While you're here, like, subscribe, comment, do the same thing for Fanatic Persepctive, and help us build this community. We're all about community, man. Tim and I, we do this because we love talking about the Longhorns. We actually had a podcast like 2-3 years ago before COVID and all that stuff hit, and there was an opportunity here for us to continue talking about the Longhorns. So we'll be here during basketball season and pain and suffering that will be. Will be here during baseball season. The excitement that will be, and of course the softball season, which is the excitement that will be as well. So we're here everything. We cover all the sports. As if you guys watch the intro video, we cover everything. So we appreciate you guys. We're live every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Fellas, anything else?
No, I think we're good, man.
All righty. Well, my name is Harish. This is our guy Steve. That's my guy Tim. We out of here. Peace.
So Gabriel.
Go home. Touchdown like an end zone. When the circle turn to my home. Can't get me out of my zone. Go hard. Go home.